Born to Build podcast.
Welcome to Born to Build, conversations with the builders, the founders, the pioneers, driving change from the ground up, giving you the tools to build and grow your business. Now, I too am building up this podcast from the ground up. My dream is for it to equip and help entrepreneurs all across Africa. Would you help me make that dream come to life by doing one of the following? Subscribe to this podcast. 1, 2, give it a rating on your favorite podcast app. Quickly, pause the show and go do it now. Okay, thanks. That's super helpful to get the word out. Lastly, share this podcast with someone who you think could benefit from it too. But now, without any further ado, over to today's episode. Now, today I'm joined by Sasha Knott, Global CEO of Job Crystal and Crystal AI, where she's transforming recruitment by combining human empathy with the power of AI. Welcome, Sasha. So great to have you on the show.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for having us on.
So, Sasha, you've had an incredible journey. You started out as a waitress, moving on to software development, then into entrepreneurship. Now, looking back, what do you think first ignited your entrepreneurial spirit? Take us through that journey a little bit.
I think looking back, it's definitely, so my father had his own business, but I grew up. So I think I always saw as much as he probably worked harder than most people, he still had the flexibility to come and watch a netball match, as an example. So I think the entrepreneurial spirit was born from his side, and to see kind of the challenges that happened there. I also, when I started my career, I worked, post a little bit of working for corporates. I worked for some entrepreneurs that inspired me to, hey, let me try this as well. So I think it was a bit of parent to my dad, and then a bit of when I was working for SMEs, figuring out that maybe this is the path I wanted to choose.
Brilliant. So didn't put you off seeing your dad? It was opposite. It was like, hey, this is the type of life I want to lead as well.
Yeah, I think it was also, it's a nice challenge to go and build something and see if it works. Where I think when you're working in a corporate, you're given a slice of the pizza, as I call it, and you don't get to build the whole pizza. And I think I liked the fact that I could build the whole pizza.
Now, was there a particular moment in your journey when you realized you were born to build, as the podcast is called?
So I left school, didn't know what I wanted to do, went for an aptitude test to study programming, and I thought, oh, this will be quite interesting. So took the course, did it, and I loved building software. And I think that's where my build kind of came in, was building software and making something pink or blue or whatever color you wanted to press a button and it did something. I love the building element. So I think the software programming gave me that, like you said, like born to build. I think that's kind of where I found my niche. I remember telling my mom I wanted to go to university and study management because I wanted to be a manager. And she's like, you're not going to study management and walk into management. So I think that's why I went the course of the programming, and obviously that's led me a little bit further down the line.
And do you still feel that same spark today when you're starting something?
Absolutely. Especially just before we started this, I was having a look. We're doing month end and building stuff, and you kind of get the ideas of when we do this and add this, and love to do that building on the reports and the data. So yeah, I don't think it's left me. Unfortunately, I think I still like to keep my hands dirty and keep on building.
Yeah, or fortunately, right? Like it's beautiful to be able to build. Yeah, I think I did I don't know if you're familiar with the term ikigai, the concept of the Japanese concept of the what you love and, what you can get paid for. When all of those things combine, then you got this concept of ikigai. And to me, it was when I was going through like the list of the things that you might be kind of born for, building stood out for me. And that's why this podcast is called Born to Build. It's really being able to create and build is just amazing.
Absolutely.
Now, so Job Crystal has a mission to make recruitment faster, easier, and better. What was broken in the traditional, recruitment game that you set out to fix?
So I worked in a corporate world, had worked in an SME, like I said, and found that number one, recruitment was expensive. So for an SME, the first hurdle was always you couldn't use a recruitment agency because you didn't have enough budget as an SME. So that was the first hurdle I was trying to overcome. And then the second one is when you do choose the recruiter and you're kind of picking out of the best out of a bad bunch, you find the right one who's amazing, and you wonder why the others don't do what that one did. It would be an easier game if everyone kind of used the same formula, and they didn't.
Right.
They didn't choose a wider net to be able to choose from. So it was the two things.
Mm.
It was the cost, and that if you could do it the same way, the same formula, and get the right result every time, wouldn't that be better than kind of
Mm.
throwing the dice and hoping you get the right candidate?
Mm. Right. Now, just to dig a little bit deeper into, I guess, how you guys operate. You mentioned on your website 3 candidate types, and then leveraging multiple databases. Can you unpack that a little bit and why it's so powerful?
Yeah, so I think, you never know where your ideal staff member is. They could be actively looking in the market. Let's say they don't like their boss and they're looking for a new job, or they've been retrenched. Or maybe that person's loving their job. They're doing well, but you could headhunt them and, discuss with them, and they could be the ideal person. Or what if somebody, and we find that, and this is the reason it came up, is there's 3 types of people in the world. There's those that are looking for a job openly. They'll go, Sam, I'm looking for a job. Do you know anybody who's looking for a salesperson? There's those that are in
Mm.
their jobs, happy, but they would always be enticed to discuss a possible move. And then there's those that don't want to put themselves out there, but they do kind of look on the job boards to see what jobs are out there and see what entices them, and they only apply for the right jobs for them. So you would
Right.
want to widen the net by looking at all 3 types of people and get a really
Mm.
good idea of who's going to match your culture, your skills, experience, and your education for the role. We often talk about having the right person on the bus, but it's also having the right person on the bus in the right seat. So
Mm.
if you could find the one with a culture fit and one with the seats, we think by looking at widening the net, you can find that right person.
Mm. And you said multiple databases. How does that work?
So on an active side, so when you're looking for a job, you would kind of register on our website. We have a couple active databases which we look at. We look at on a passive side. So when we headhunting, we look at 109 different websites. So all those kind of different databases that we could use and go and find and headhunt talent. And then applications, we advertise on a range of different job portals, and they come into several different databases of applications. So that's kind of how the different databases work and come through. It kind of all works on those 3 different types of candidates.
And where does AI fit into that picture?
Yeah, so big data, that's the thing is you can't look at that kind of wide net. We look at in South Africa, 36 million. As a human, you couldn't go through 36 million candidates for every job
Mm.
you go through. So AI takes the 36 million, comes a lot further down to a couple thousand, kind of moves it down to, we put it into batches of 3 to 5. And that's where you find on a humanable format. If I looked at 3 to 5 candidates at a time, I'd be able to make a much better decision based on that rather than looking at quite a large amount.
Mm. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you got a much wider net, I guess, and there's no way you could comb through all of that manually with humans, right? Yeah.
No, that's the point of using AI. So use AI
Mm.
for it can use its power on a large amount of data, as well as being intelligent with that data.
What have been some of your biggest challenges in building Job Crystal, like especially from the early days? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I call it the roller coaster. I think when you're born to
Yeah.
build, you're always going to build a roller coaster. So behind me is Lego that I've built is a McLaren car and some flowers, but we've also got a roller coaster one,
Mm.
which I really should put at the back, because that's kind of the journey of building a business, because there's always something you
Yeah.
need to fix. So I think our biggest challenge, as always with a business, is cash. When do you go get a loan? When do you get an overdraft? When do you go and get equity? When do you find a different partner? So the cash element has been interesting. um, the biggest bet is
Yeah.
finding the right team members. And I think that's why we're so passionate about what we do, is once you have found the right team members. So imagine you're starting a business and obviously you started generally alone. And then you realize, hang on, I need somebody to take up the sales element. I can't do that. And manage you brought the salesperson who did sales better than you did. And that is
Mm.
kind of the biggest challenge, is to finding those right people who are going to scale your business and grow the business. Often people think as soon as I bring a person in, they're going to take my time. And they do initially while you train them, but getting them up on their feet. And once they're up, they can help you grow your company. So finding the right people, your cash, and then continuously innovating. Like I said, you were saying, building, finding new ideas to add on. AI is moving at such a fast pace. What can you add?
Mm.
And there's a lot of AI that's out there that's not great. We're finding a lot of hallucinations from AI, a lot of
Mm.
change from the AI side. So it's not just about adding AI, it's about making sure that what you add does work.
Yeah, for sure. On the funding side, like what are some of those challenges that you had, and then how did you overcome them? How did you approach funding?
So when we self-funded. So there was we didn't take a salary. We put everything back into the business. We took minimal amount of commission that we took from ourselves. We then a little bit later, so we had built some revenue, we could go to the bank. And we actually used our credit card as a overdraft. It worked
Mm.
better. It was a less cost. So when you look at an overdraft cost versus a credit card cost, the credit card, you're not physically using the card. Well, so you can, but it's about transferring that money and be able to revolve that money. And then
Mm.
we worked with a company called, it's now Time Bank, it was Retail Capital, where they do
Mm.
a funding line for SMEs. And the way you pay it back is on each week based on your revenue. So that's worked really, really well for us. We did do
Mm.
an investment round. So we did a pre-seed round before we built our AI. So we got equity
Mm.
into the business. We had entered with a VC in the US who funded the initial AI journey. And then we're just about to start our seed round now. So I would always suggest is when you're going to go for your funding, start with self-funding, do the loans, the banks, the credit cards that you can do. And then when you're looking for a larger amount of money, then go through and go and find the right VC, the right angel that can be able to fund and help you grow. I think often we forget that you do need money to grow. And if you're going to scale it, you need to scale it fast. And unfortunately, money is energy sometimes.
Mm. Any lessons learned there along the way, especially around trying to find VC funding?
Yeah, quite a lot. Find the
Mhm.
right one that suits you. I think there are so
Yeah.
many. I found that there is, when you start looking into that puzzle of VCs, there is such a large amount of them. And obviously, there's VCs, the PEs. So VCs are venture capitalists. They're generally businesses. They could be individuals that have got money to go and invest in different businesses. PEs are private equity, so that's different companies like a Old Mutual that wants to go and support something like a Standard Bank actually did with, was it StatScan that they did? So they invested into that. So that's like a PE side. And then you get
Mhm.
angels. So a lot of people have made money by selling their businesses and they individually go and invest into a business. So for example, let's say I had sold Job Crystal, I'd made money and I want to invest in Born to Build and the podcast, that would be an angel round. So usually the angels are more individuals and usually they come in a lot earlier. So right in the beginning. Um, Find the one that fits for you. Angels are generally quite early. VCs are that middle bunch. PEs are generally a little bit later. So when you're looking at later, you're looking at about $1 million revenue per year is where you're looking at the bigger game. The smaller
Mm.
games on the left hand side with VCs and angels. Find the one that works in your space. So if we're in HR tech, so we look for HR tech investors specifically. Some
Okay.
people aren't. There's for females. There's a lot of female investors, female and angels that you can go and focus on. Unfortunately, within the female world, only about 1% of VC funding goes to females and pure female
Yeah.
owned businesses. So we have a little bit of more of a struggle, but there's definitely ways and means to get the funding. Just make sure that what you're selling is scalable. Nobody wants to invest in a business that unfortunately isn't going to make money. And this isn't a funding round in the sense of it's not going to pay your expenses. It's really there to scale the business. So I think,
Mm.
find the right VC. You got to create a pitch deck. There's an amazing book. I wonder if I've got it here. I do. Thinking Big, from Sarah Dusak, that talks about the
Mm.
funding journey. And it
Okay.
is really, really good if anybody wants to go and have a look.
Thinking
That's
bigger.
Thinking Bigger, and that was really, really good to build your pitch deck.
Yeah. So obviously, it's the funding that's useful, but what else is there? Like when you're looking for the right investor for you, what else is there beyond obviously the actual funding? You said they operate in your niche, but like, yeah, what else are you looking for?
The money they give you. So let's say, you are looking for R1 million or $1 million. You need to find those VCs that fit into that size. So a lot of VCs, PEs will work
Mm.
in the tens of millions, hundreds of millions. If you're not looking for that range, don't go and talk to that VC. They're only looking for very large funding.
Mm.
When you can also do an SVP, which is a single purpose vehicle where you can go and use, and a whole bunch of people can jump into one vehicle to be able to invest in that business. And there's quite a few of those that works really well for B2C, so business to consumer products, where kind of they get
Mm.
the public to go and join in and to go and invest in that business. So it gives everyone the ability to invest as well as to be able to get money. So there's some very cool businesses and websites that have started things and items like that as well. So yeah, find your VC that's in your niche, find them in your right category. Find them that they're looking at your country, your region. So if you're based in South Africa or Africa, have a look at those. There's a lot of specific Africa VCs. If you're looking to go international, go and obviously look at the Europe or go to US side. The US is obviously where a lot more of the money comes from. It was a bit stagnant last year with all the politics that was happening, but it seems to have opened up again for VC funding. But have a look at LinkedIn. There is so many VCs, angels that you will find there that you can go and reach out to.
You've moved to the UK yourself, but also Job Crystal's also going more global from the South Africa base into the UK, I believe, and more global as well. Are your seed round, is that also you targeting more international VC style as well then?
We're actually doing both. We are talking to South African VCs. They are on our target list, and so would be the Europe side. I think some of the US. The US, the VC we got was actually quite interesting. They were based in South Africa, so that's kind of how we found them. Even though they kind of come from the US, they were based in South Africa. So we've kept our kind of options open as long as the VC is targeting your area, and obviously we're trying to scale into the Europe now and into more of Africa, not just South Africa. So any VC that looks into Europe, Africa would work for us as well as the US side. It's a different game, but it's if you're born to build, I would definitely highly say to go for it. And look, there's lots of businesses that haven't taken any funding and they've grown as well. So you can do both. One just helps you fuel the engine.
So just as a bit of a techie myself, let's talk a little bit about the tech and what's been the hardest part of building an AI product in recruitment?
Yeah, funny story. So we started building in August 2020, and my project plan was 3 months to build it. With a 6 month, kind of as a techie, I knew that I needed to give some padding to that.
You always double it, right? You think, how long is it going to take me? Okay, double it.
It took 2 years. So we went from 3 months to 6 months to 2 years. So I think, having come from a tech world, I was a software programmer. You build a product, a software, and you go. And AI doesn't work that way. Your LLM, your data needs to be large. The way you build it is different. We went through 5 different development companies, people we had brought internal and external who couldn't build it. It's not an easy solve. It always sounds quite easy let's just use lots of data and solve and, we can just hire like that. We found out it wasn't like that. We matched from a job description to a CV, which talk very differently. So it was a challenging experience to build the AI. So that's most definitely been our most difficult tech challenge, was building the AI itself and understanding AI. We started building it before OpenAI was around, was public. So it was a challenge trying to build it right in the beginning. But what's been great is it's now our algorithm. We didn't build it on somebody else's LLM.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So you've done your own machine learning. You've actually trained your own models.
Yeah. And we still train every single day. I speak that Google did an HR recruitment way back in the day, but unfortunately it was finding white males because it was learning from history data. So we've had to unlearn the machine to make it relearn that it needs to not be biased, which was challenging in itself.
And you, with the technical background, are you still quite hands-on there, or do you feel like you want to kind of let others do the work now? Or?
We've got a really strong team that I don't code in AI at all. I don't do any of the Python side. So that's definitely done by those devs, but I still dig into the SQL. I still write for some queries. I'd love to have some more time to go and code and learn it all, but it's only 24 hours in a day. And unfortunately those hours don't come into let's go and learn a new coding language.
For sure. Now, as techies as well, I think we tend to lean too heavily on the tech and I guess the machine brain. But obviously in recruitment, there's so much of the human element and the human heart. How do you find that balance? How do you get that right?
I think our candidates remind us all the time about it. when
Yeah.
we started, we created Crystal and we launched it, and we would tell people, okay, just sign up and go, and you can find your own candidates and on your way. We figured out that clients miss the customer service side. So we brought that back in. So a lot more hand holding right in the beginning. And once our clients have kind of got the feel to it, they kind of go on their own then, but they needed that hand holding in the beginning. And the same with candidates. We
Mm.
brought in video interviews right in the beginning. So you have an avatar who asks you questions within an interview. And candidates didn't
Mm.
like it. They've missed that personal touch. I want to be able to ask the recruiter
Right.
questions. I want to be able to ask the client those kind of questions. So clients
Yeah.
loved it because it saved them time. The candidates didn't. So you have to
Mm.
listen to both sides. And that kind of almost always brought the human feel in. I say that I put my team first. So my team comes first for me. They're my first priority, but their first priority is the clients or the candidates. We've got different facing kind of employees. And kind of the human
Mm.
touch stays there. And I think because we're training a machine, we have to be very cognizant on how we train that machine. So that human element is
Yeah.
always there. Our site actually used to start with, what is the best way to recruit? Is it using a machine or using a human? And the answer came up
Mm.
saying both, because that is
Mm.
the best way. I don't think you'll ever get to recruitment that'll be completely all machine based. I think you're always going to need that human element. The
For
machine's
sure.
going to tell you who's probably the best person, but it's going to get to 2 or 3, 4 candidates where you're going to have to still do that interview, go and see the personal person, and still have that interpersonal skill side. That's not going to get lost.
Yeah. Great. And how do you do that on the tech side? Like, how do you build that human element? Is there like a handover? Like, what does that look like? The handover process from tech to human and vice versa?
So Crystal's actually quite. We've created the persona of her, and she is a her. She was originally
Right.
created by the 25 females. Um,
Um,
she's got quite a sassy tone. So the way we talk to candidates and clients through emails and WhatsApps and messages comes very in a human touch in a very personal way. But we've
okay.
also got the physical human who, account manager who will reach out to a client, and same with the candidate. We've got candidate owners who will come and reach out to the candidates, prep them personally for interviews, etc. So we've just made sure we've always got that machine and that human kind of running together.
Mm. Okay. Now, switching gears a little bit towards leadership and building a business. You've had more than 25 years in the industry and over 20 years building businesses. What are some universal lessons you've learned about scaling businesses?
So I think the first thing is, I talk about that pizza. So when you're a founder and you start your business, you do marketing, HR, finance, sales, you do everything. And when you
Oh,
do that first hire and you go, okay, let me give half the pizza. I'm going to hire Sam, and Sam's going to take half the pizza. He can just take all admin, which is finance and marketing and, sales and I'll do product development kind of thing. And we forget that we
mm,
should be give one slice to each one person. So, when Sam starts, give him finance. And because we've done all of it, we think, well, I'm one person, you can just have half the pizza. It really is slice by slice. And I think all founders do that wrong in the first kind of couple appointments. We throw too much at the people and they get overloaded and they leave because they can't
right.
manage. And you're like, but I could manage. Why can't you? But we
Uh,
had it in our heads and how we grew it and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's that
yeah.
pizza slices is really important when you're scaling. It's about, when you do find the people, find somebody specifically in your leadership team who's got a different style to you. We find a lot of founders hire the same type of leaders that they like, but you do need the
Right.
difference, So if you're a
Yeah.
very you do it, I'll leave you alone, you just do it your own way. You do need somebody else who can push and be coach and kind of thing. And then you also need a mentor on the side. So you need to change your leadership style as you hire different people. Um,
Mm,
the scaling side, like I was saying earlier, it's the ideas and making sure that the ideas are always coming. My team often says, my leadership team are like, we're really good at executing, but we're not the creative idea people. So there are certain members in the team who are going to give the ideas and the strategy, and then there's the executors and implementers that go. So it's working out that balance of your team. And then the biggest one is cash. Figure out, is cash going to come from revenue? Is cash going to come from loans? Like I was saying just now, investments. Where are you going to get the fuel, and how does that fuel look like? And have a plan for it. There's lots of SMEs that we see go out of business They didn't run a cash flow. They didn't see what was going to happen. Unfortunately, with SMEs, they often rely on one or two really big clients. And then suddenly those clients don't pay, or they pay late. And suddenly you can't pay salaries, and suddenly you're losing your team, and suddenly your business goes down really quickly. So cash flow, the statement cash flow, literally knowing when your money is going to arrive, as well as bringing in that cash, is the fuel. So there's fuel from the team, fuel from cash and where you're going, and then the ideas of what you're going to be selling is we found what scales best.
Mm. And did you have some people you could lean on, some mentors, like, especially around the cash flow stuff? Did you really naturally learn that from your dad, possibly, but yeah, what how did you, learn how to manage cash flow?
I think I'm really grateful I did accounting in school. So I did accounting throughout high school. So I did the cash flow statements and management accounts. So I understood it back to front by the time I started a business. And it's actually quite strange. In London here, my kids are about to start senior school, high school, and they don't offer accounting here as a subject at all. They've got business studies, which is like economics, and they might read a P&L or, a balance sheet, but they don't ever get to do it. So I feel that that's really missing on this side here. But accounting definitely helped me figure out how to read it and how to do it. But mentors wise, we brought in a business coach, two business coaches actually. Right, our first one, we chose her because she scared us. And it's really funny. We didn't want somebody who was going, good job, you're doing really well, good job. We wanted somebody who was going, no, that's not good enough. You said you were going to get 10 leads. Where's the 10 leads? We needed somebody who pushed us. And we brought her in at such a good time. We brought her in 2018. And obviously, what happened in 2020. We were so cash flow positive by the time COVID hits. I think it's the only reason we survived, because we went through from 80 clients to 2 in COVID. And she had made sure our cash flow was so steady. We managed to pay all salaries, all suppliers, all the way through, which was absolutely amazing because of her. We ended her contract and we brought in another business coach who was just different for the way we were scaling. So at that stage, we were bringing investment in and dealing with investors, and we needed somebody who could help us more on that side. So I would say business coaches are a dime a dozen. If you find a really good one, I'd say absolutely take them on. We used at the time Action Coach, and they were really brilliant. And then we moved to different mentors in my life. I had where I bought Job Crystal. I bought it from Cole Westvik, who's now the CEO of Time Bank. And he had always mentored me, probably not in a formal way, but with me being able to ask and reach out questions. And then lastly, we were really lucky when we got our pre-seed round. Our investor, the lady that runs it, she was kind of our biggest mentor. She had sold a business for $100 million before. So she could tell us what to do, where to do it, etc. So she was absolutely phenomenal as a mentor. So I think we've been lucky to have so many different pieces, and some of them we paid for, like the coaches, and then some had become personal friends along the way.
Now you've started, scaled, and exited businesses. What's your approach to making tough decisions when there's lots of uncertainty? Obviously, COVID taught us lots about uncertainty, but how do you make decisions in the moment?
I think what's definitely worked for me is something called step back, step out. So I have a book behind me. It's a white book with just white paper, no lines. And I don't take my phone, take a cell phone, and I go outside. I go to a different spot and literally find a park, find a garden, find whatever, and just sit with the problem for whatever it is, 15 minutes, whatever you need. Write down the problem. I find writing helps. And you actually have the solution in your head, but sometimes you just need to calm the noise down. No notifications, no emails jumping up, no phone jumping, no WhatsApps, just nothing. And figure out the solution. And I found that is the best way. And you make the better decisions, because sometimes on the fly, you do get an email and go, no, that's wrong, I'm going to reply quickly. Sometimes it wouldn't hurt to step away, and I call it step out, step back. Just step away and figure out what the answer is, because you've got the answer in your head.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast this week about Elon Musk, actually, someone doing a podcast on Walter Isaacson's book. And one of the things that he would do often does is just sometimes stare at the wall, just for, an hour at a time. You'll just stare, or just stay up all night, and it's completely dark. And just that space of no disruptions, just complete, just isolation from everything, to just be able to think clearly.
Exactly. I think
very.
I think as founders, we often, all of us wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with that problem and trying to figure it out. And we actually do manage to figure it out at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's because there's no technology, there's no interruptions, it's absolute quietness. So if you can do that in your day, and it's literally, 15 minutes, no one's going to bug you for 15 minutes. If you could just go sit in your car if you need to, just get away from everybody, tech and people wise. And I think you find that you've always got the solution in your head if you just calm everything else down.
I guess it's also why we often just suddenly come up with stuff in the shower, because there's nothing to interrupt us there.
No technology. The only problem there, and obviously the problem at 2 o'clock in the morning, is you can't write the solution down. And you wake up the next morning, or you get out of the shower, and then you forget about it because, I have kids who run in and you've completely forgotten what was the solution. So that's why I say the white book and pen.
Great. Brilliant. And what leadership qualities do you lead on most in this fast moving tech space?
So we've implemented something called EOS, which is called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is really great in making sure of how you set your structure. Everything's in our heads, and we often think our team know what it is. And it's learning to communicate that a lot more. And sometimes what I found is repetition is the best. So if you repeat and you show your core values and you live by your core values. So we've got it's not just printed. We don't have an office. We all work remotely, so we can't exactly print it on the wall, but we share it. I write an email every Monday to my team, which tells us obviously what's going on and what we've done and where we are, but also reminds of the core values. We give awards out every month of who's followed the core values the most. We have something, and again, it's all about the clear communication, is everybody gets one rock. My rock's over there. You have a rock every month of what you're going to do to get to a result. And it's not about, I need to bring 10 sales in. It's about, I'm going to call 50 people to get the 10 sales. And it's, what are you going to do to get to the result? And that helps us. We forget, I think, that priority is one, and it's not 10 priorities. And if we can just do that one rock, that first thing, and get that done, obviously everything else comes after that. It's doing that one rock. So I think my leadership style is very much more, I'll give it to you, I'll give you all the tools and I'll train, and I'll leave you to do it. We work remotely. We can't sit over people's shoulders, which is probably a good thing. That's not my management style. But we lead that way in, this is what it looks like. This is the vision. If you're all in, great. If you're not, please speak up. But then let's go, and let's go get it done.
And I believe that's from the book Traction, right? And is it Gino?
Yes,
Wickham,
I think. Yeah.
The thing of the rocks. Maybe explain that a little bit more. So you got a rock, but then obviously, explain that illustration a bit.
So it's a bit like Oprah Winfrey, when she was in that, her one episode and everyone got a car, everyone gets a rock. So we had a whole Oprah thing of everyone gets a rock. So we literally have, it's a rock, and they've painted their own rocks where they've written what their thing is they're going to do. So our debtors clerk, for example, has got a red side and a green side of a rock. And the red side is when she's below how many days that people have to pay by, and a green rock is when they've all achieved. But the rock is something that you have to do, not the result. So it's kind of, we talk about Springboks rugby. There's a score line, but the Springboks don't walk out going, we're going to go and win by 20-0. They walk out saying we're going to go and win. So it's not about the score line, it's what are they going to do to win? And that's what the same thing for the team is your rock is one thing that you can do to make sure you get the results. And that one thing may be calling 50 people a week, leads. Or it might be from a development point of view that you give an update to the team of training once a week for half an hour. So it's what are you going to do to make sure that you can achieve your goals and your results and hit that score line as a team. So it's become crystal clear. Everybody knows what everybody's rock is, and your rock physically sits on your desk. So you can see and it actually becomes an actual rock. And we call it, we're smashing it. You keep you smashing your rock.
Nice. Yeah, great to have these fun elements as well to, I think, again, the human side, right? It's like building in that culture of fun, and while we're building, it's got to be fun too.
Exactly. You spend 1/3 of your life at work. You may as well be doing something you love and being able to add some fun elements through to the work that you do.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Where do you see recruitment heading in the next 5 to 10 years? You already kind of feels like at the forefront. But yeah, where is this all heading with AI and automation?
Um, I don't know. A lot of people say CVs are going to disappear. So you all know what a LinkedIn profile looks like, which is pretty much an online CV. A lot of people feel that the CV element is going to go away because you think it's almost unfair to select a person to interview based on just their CV. But how else do you work out what somebody's background looks like?
Right.
So a lot of people say that's going to disappear. Um, I
Do you think that? Do you agree?
I don't think so. I don't know how else you're going to document your way of what you've done. And how else do you show it? Be it you show it on a LinkedIn profile, or be it you show it in a paper format. I think people will always be public and wouldn't want to share all their personal details. Like a LinkedIn, there's only 8 million South Africans on LinkedIn, and there's 36 million employable South Africans. So
Sure.
not even
Right.
half the amount of South Africans are on LinkedIn. And that's not a data problem because we're quite a big country with a lot of smartphone devices. So everyone could have a LinkedIn page, but they choose not to.
Mm.
Or don't know about it. There's obviously that two elements to that. I don't know kind of how it's going to look in 5 to 10 years. I think AI will get there, and some of the players will get lost in the way, and think some good tech will stay out there. I definitely think AI is going to work in recruitment, and how it's going to work specifically to be able to widen that base and to get to the right type of candidates. I think there'll always be that personal element. I think always people will be doing an interview with on a gut feel, in that sense of, I really like Sam, so let me hire him. I think that will always stay, but I think data will help us get to it's either Sam or Joe, and let's pick one of them rather than I just pick the first person I find in my CV pile. So yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I've seen some really good tech coming out. There's some amazing new tech that's coming out that we haven't built, that we're seeing from different partners of ours, of the type of tech that's coming out. But definitely what is happening is that we can see now, and it's going to continue, is the global format. We're getting lots of companies here in the UK that are hiring South Africans to work in South Africa, and to not, we call it the skill drain, is to not drain the talent in South Africa and move it to different parts of the world. It's to actually keep them in South Africa and they're working remotely. So I think that global phenomenon is going to continue to grow, and more people are going to work for US, UK companies in different parts of the world.
Mm. Where do you think people are getting it wrong in terms of recruitment? And maybe just add a little more color there. It feels like it's quite a short evaluation period, really, that you've got to evaluate someone that you're going to be working with long term. And having done, a lot of hiring myself as well, and some of them you don't get them right, and you're like, how do you, I guess, get it right more often? And maybe is there a future where there is a better way to almost date first before you make the commitment? Yeah, is there anything that you feel like recruitment is going in that direction?
So I think the dating first is difficult if somebody's got a job. So let's say I was going to come work for you. Obviously, I need to finish my notice period, so I can't really come and work for you for a few days and decide how it works. I do think
Mm,
assessments are going to get better. And as much as assessments are out there that are being copied by AI, so for example, on a developer front, they get sent an assessment, they just put it into ChatGPT and ChatGPT gives them the code.
yeah.
Assessments don't work in that sense, but I think the assessments will get better in how they assess candidates. Um, I
Mm,
think the psychometric, which is, it's probably not the right word, but those kind of assessments for a culture fit. Because often what you find is the people that don't work in a company is often a cultural misalignment. It's not they didn't have the
mm,
skills. We very rarely find, if you need the person to be a bookkeeper and work in Pastel, they can probably work in Pastel and be a bookkeeper. We often find the problem is a culture fit side. And we'll move that same bookkeeper to some other company and they absolutely thrive and they become the CFO. So it really is a culture fit element of where do you fit in that business. And I think that's somewhere where recruitment's going to be able to get better in, specifically the AI side,
mm,
is to match that culture fit right and to give you a warning
right.
sign going, look, if you hire Joe, it's just not going to, he's not the same type of person that you have in X, Y, and Z. And I think AI is going to bring that through. So I think it's, when
Mm,
you've got, like I said, the person in the right bus, you just sometimes have to figure out what seat they need to be on.
yeah. Right. And where do you see most people getting it wrong? Like, what is the biggest mistake people make?
Think that's just a speed thing. Sometimes, often in SMEs, we go, I need somebody tomorrow. Like I can't cope. My social media is falling apart. I need a social media manager, and they just hire the first person they see. And that's often the fault we see is people haven't gone to have a look. And that's why AI helps is you can look at a wider range and look at everybody to look, to get to that one person you need. Start where you want to finish. So a lot of people go, I just need a social media manager. I'm going to go to Google, go and copy a social media manager job spec and just put that out. That's not what you're looking for. That's somebody else's job spec you're looking for. So it's making sure that you write down exactly what you are looking for in the sense of what is the person going to be doing and what skills do you that you need them to have, and then be able to find them. And we often find people hire people and they probably didn't need to hire a person. They probably could have hired a consultant, a freelancer. They needed somebody who could work half days. They didn't need somebody who could be there working there for 8 hours a day. So it's mixing that up. And obviously a lot of our focus is working with SMEs. So we see a lot of they hire corporate people. So for example, they go and hire somebody who works at Absa Bank, who's worked there for 30 years and walks into a SME and they're like, doesn't fit. Because working in a corporate, you've got so many people you can ask to do things, where in an SME, you have to wear 10 hats, even as an employee. Yeah. So it's, when SME, I always say, don't go headhunt in a big corporate with somebody who's only ever worked on a corporate side. It just, the culture fit doesn't work.
Yeah, really insightful. Thank you. Just to close us off, just a few rapid fire questions. You've already mentioned a couple of books. So we talked about Traction. We talked about, I think Bigger, was it? But what's one other book that has deeply influenced you as a leader?
Atomic Habits. I love the book. I actually studied the book. It's probably the only book I've ever studied. Okay. Love the way he just kind of how you do your habits and how you make them stick.
If you weren't building a recruitment tech, what other industry would you dive into?
I'd love to do biotech. I find it fascinating how people are looking at AI and curing cancer and doing a whole bunch of things. I'd love to do biotech. I think it's a fascinating industry.
Biggest failure that became a blessing?
Being retrenched. And I think I was retrenched 3 times. And each one was a blessing in disguise.
Oh. Wow. Outside of work, what helps you recharge and stay grounded?
I have 2 kids, so I get reminded of what's important in their lives, and that's usually something small, like they don't get to watch TV today. So I think they keep me grounded. I have an amazing husband who's also in IT, which definitely helps me bounce things off. And then I do netball. So if I need to go and throw my frustrations around onto netball courts, I can. So I think those 3 are definitely that keeps my feet on the ground.
Just a little closing reflection for listeners who are building their own businesses, often in the trenches. What's one piece of advice you wish you had heard earlier in your journey?
That you have the answers. I think that step back and step out has helped me the most. I think we get so flooded that we don't know what to do, how to do it. If we just stepped out to one problem at a time, we'd figure it out. So that's definitely my one piece of advice. Brilliant.
Just zoom out a little bit, step away. Brilliant. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Sasha, for this chat. Loved it. Some really insightful nuggets that I've picked up along the way. So I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Born to build, to blend.